Hello, my friends. Hello. I think we figured it out. It's a little, a little technically difficulty here. Okay, so the idea of the show is I give these guys a position, and usually what we do is we kind of begin by doing a little bit of blah blah here, of just, talking about dojo life and whatever, just so that you and David and Kostya can get a sense of the position. This is white to move. I put it there, you see it there on the side, but you might not see it right away. And the question I'm going to put up as a poll, again, you'll have a chance, this is a long poll, like a 10-minute poll, so you'll have a chance to think about it, is who is better, and I'll give a couple who is better, and so we'll chat a little bit, and then after David and Kostya start playing, I'll share just how I feel about it. I've studied this position. All these positions, I don't look at it with a computer. I studied it, and I also had the opportunity to play many practice games against two of my students here with this position with both colors. So it's kind of an interesting operation. So I'm going to say white is winning. White is better.
No cheating students this time, I hope.
No cheating students, no. Black is better, and then we got black is winning. Okay, so we've got 5 possible ones. We're going to say duration 10 minutes. There we go, great. So, yeah, let me just chat a little bit, and we can ask Kostya and David to give us some updates. This show will probably not take place next week. I am starting this tournament, which I'm feeling really apprehensive about. It's a tournament for like young people and millennials, because round 1, it's 9 rounds. Round 1, it starts at 7. I start going to bed at 7, everybody. That's how old I am. I start going to bed at 7. And round 1 is at 7. And it's 2 hours plus 30 seconds, so it could go till midnight. I'm going to be totally exhausted. So I'm really, especially that first game, I'm really scared. And one thing I know about this 9-round event is if you get a bunch of games that go the distance, yeah, you're just going to have nothing left in the tank. Nothing left in the tank. By like round 5 or 6, you're already totally done. So I'm feeling kind of scared.
So why not take that first round by then?
I am not, I'm one of the GMs. When you're one of the GMs, you're not allowed to take buys. Yeah, because it's a GM norm event, so people are trying to slay me, and I'm trying to be the guy guarding the gates, not letting anybody through, being the gatekeeper. I need to be the gatekeeper, Kostya.
Do it, Jesse. Keep them all out.
Yeah. All right, so here we have our poll going on. Yeah, we got some interesting results coming in already. So before I ask you, just you guys a sense of the position, any other, one thing I could see you guys can tell me more about is apparently we're going to be featured Twitch front page. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing this kind of group collab charity thing with a bunch of other chess streamers that people probably know. That's happening, last weekend of May. And I think we're going to be on the front page of Twitch. So that's going to be pretty cool. We'll let you guys know exactly when that is, but I think it's going to be, I remember, noon on Saturday, the 29th. So we'll have a special event planned or two. So that'll be fun. That's coming up next weekend. Actually, real quick, I'll plug our new verified club. If you want to play under your real name, guys, and you want to play against other like verified members, you can check out all the info on that Patreon post there in the chat. There's a Google page there you can sign up. There's a chess.com club that you should then request access to. And all the info there is explained. That's really cool. We're going to be running our first tournaments for the verified group this weekend, this Sunday, for the Rapid.
Nice.
Cool. And we have a tournament after this stream, right, David?
Yes, we'll have an endgame tournament right after the stream for everybody here to practice their own endgame.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm going to miss out on the front page thing. Kostya, just to give us a sense, like whenever I use Twitch, you know, like let's say I type in, whenever I start typing in Twitch, it always goes to our page because that's the most common thing we got. And then I see like a list of streamers that I know on the left. So I've actually never been to the Twitch homepage. And so is it a thing that people use? Like they go to the homepage of the Twitch and like I'm trying to, yeah.
Yeah, if they would like want to find like a new channel or something. Some people do. I'm with you. I usually know like where I want to go on Twitch.
Right.
But that's why we have to make the stream like really enticing. So any eyes we get from the front page have to be like, it's all going to be chess streams. Like we're all getting front page, but maybe not at the same time. So actually, no, we'll be competing with like real video games and stuff.
Uh-huh. Okay, cool. All right, so let's start. I'll just ask your general sense of the position, who you think's better. Maybe if you want, you could say what you think the first move should be, but most in general, I'm just interested in hearing the basics of what you see happening in the position, how you judge it. And let's start with David. We still have a couple minutes too if you want to vote in our poll about who's better.
Okay. So I think white's a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, reasons include, you know, the pawn islands, 2 pawn islands versus 3, the black dark squared bishop being a little bit not good. Those are the reasons.
Okay. So you'd say what? White's clearly better.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Kostya, you want to add anything to that? Objections?
Not really, no. I think white's better for sure. Not too clear on like my first move, but yeah, I think 100% take white here.
And so not necessarily, you think a little bit better, clearly better, winning?
I mean, it would be really hard to say winning, but I would not accept the draw from a 2600 as white.
Uh-huh, okay.
Put it that way.
Uh-huh, okay. David, what's your sense?
I mean, I don't know if it's winning or not. And when I say clearly better, it means that I don't know if it's a draw or a win. Right? So it's like somewhere in that area where I can't tell if with best play black should be able to hold or white should be able to win.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also say that it falls into the category of like, I mean, it feels to me like it falls into this category of like 2 result positions where there's not any like hope for black, like, oh, you know, I've got this plan or I've got this counterplay or I could turn it around or anything like that. It's just, you just sit there and you hold it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Just kind of white's playing for 2 results. Whether white's winning or not is not actually important. You still just kind of, you try to win and then you see what happens.
All right, I'm going to pin you guys down. I need a number. All right,
You want a number?
I need a number. And I want you to think of the number now so you're not influenced by the other dude when he says it. All right?
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll,
no
I'll
problem.
write mine down.
Yeah, right.
You
Kostya's going to write it down, and then David's going to tell it to us. All right, David, what's your number, buddy?
Wait.
I need a number.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
And just before, I'm going to actually post, says I picked black because the king is better. The rooks are not, well, the white rooks are not coordinated. And I feel like black has better control of the white squares with its pawns. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, David, what's your number, buddy?
0.75.
All right, what did you have, Kostya?
I just typed it in the chat super fast.
Whoa,
0.86. Okay, there we go. Okay, so Kostya gets white in this battle. Oh, it means that Kostya says he's, 0.86. It doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win. It just means like he feels like he's in charge of the situation.
Yeah, I know, but if I just wanted to play white, I could have like bid 2, even though it's wrong. I would get to play white.
No, I think it's good. Just be honest in this thing, buddy. And every time I'm like, you guys are going to gamify me, and at least you finally admitted it that you're looking to gamify me in this little thing.
No, I've never gamified you. I am honest, my lord.
I have a question before we start. This, by the way, this means that Kostya can think about what his first move is going to be, because we'll start right after this. Kostya, you still playing National Open?
Yeah, I'm signed up. Yeah.
Cool. And David, have you thought about it?
I'm trashed. My kids, one of my kids has the week off school.
Okay. I'm trash. That's rough.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
rough, buddy.
I was really thinking I would go.
Hmm.
Chloe said she could handle the weekend, but now there's the whole week too.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I want to also just announce, my life is getting it's a really rough time. I'm probably not going to stream too much in the next little bit. I do have, I have a question for Kostya still before we start. I do have the U.S. Chess School at 7 tonight, so I'm doing a lot today, but I'm moving. Then I have the tournament, but I do have a sweet new pad, you guys. I got a streaming station in this next place. Oh my God, I'm going to be a streaming lord. A lord. Yeah, Kostya's going to see my setup and he's going to be like, oh man, I thought the millennials had this covered, man. No, the streaming lord is about to arrive. Kostya, I wanted to ask, I still need to do a little prep for this U.S. Chess School. Is there a theme tonight or in this little stretch?
Prep.
Yeah, that's up to you. I think
it's open is what you're saying.
Instructors are just choosing any themes they want.
Okay, because sometimes we have themes and then I don't want to be unthematic. All right, everybody, here we go. Let's start this match. Oh, actually, the voting is about to stop and we'll get a final tally. Basically, it looks like white is better with 57% was the clear winner. 25% said white is winning. A couple people, 3 said black is better. One said equal. One said black is winning. There we go. So we have a little bit of a divergence, but definitely consensus with white is better. All right, everybody, here we go. You guys make sure that you are in the live chess of the chess.com business. And here we're going to start this. We're going to say, I always forget. It's D. Pruess, right? D. Pruess. And I think I'm going to give you guys a little bit more time. So I'm going to say 8:30. Right? By the way, we are mimicking modern endgames with this 30-second increment thing. You do not have a lot of time to play endgames these days. And here we go. All right, there they are started. Oh, and you guys have to disengage.
I'm going to leave now.
And I'm going to take off this thing here. All right. I keep the headphones in with the hope of being less reverberating when when we're talking together. And I hope you still hear me. Tell me if you don't hear me. Basically, I'm going to be really upset if Kostya doesn't play G5. I told my students that too. I was like, if they don't play G5, I'm going to really wallop them. I'm going to wallop them good if they don't play G5. So we'll see. I'll introduce the game too. This is Fischer Reshevsky 1962 U.S. Championship. And I would just say my initial impression is that good move, G5, is that white was clearly better, and now I'm leaning towards white is winning. Bishop D8 is actually a move. I spent a lot of time looking at Bishop D8. Bishop D8 is a little bit more ambitious because you have Bishop B6. There's all kinds of questions about F4. Can white play F4 after Bishop D8? My sense is that F4 is not that special, but in the postmortem, maybe we'll find a way to make it work. I had this position several times with my students. It really is a great way to learn a position, is just to practice it out with some students, even of different levels. Is kind of an interesting practice. And most of them did not want to play G5. And let me just stress, G5 is absolutely the right move. And the main point is that you want to make the H7 pawn fixed. And so the key part of the advantage for white in this position is that, key aspect, let's say, is that the rook on H8 is bad. anyways, so they were confused about g5 because it felt like, oh, maybe that pawn's a weakness. It's on the wrong color of the bishop. And it's true that it's on the wrong color of the bishop. In general, you don't want to put your pawns on the color of the bishop. But making the rook bad on h8 is a much bigger deal. Okay. Yeah, this is pretty good. And one little spiel I want to give here is one of the things that I discovered, or saw again, reconfirmed in my analysis with the students, is that the stronger people get, the less they are fixated on pawns and more with pieces. And so what we're into here for white is not the fact that we're going to win the pawn on h7. If we get our rook to h7, our rook will be a beast, right? So it's less even about the pawn than it is about the rook. And the reason white has an advantage is not because of the pawn weaknesses for black, but because the white pieces are more active. That's why it's a significant advantage. And it looks like Mr. Pruess is adopting a sit. He's opting for a sit strategy. And white now can build at his leisure. And one of the things that stress is once bishop e3 happens, and it will happen, there's no counterplay on the f file for black, and it's a major bummer. So one of the reasons I chose this position is it's a really good example of what we call alternating of weaknesses. So we can hit the h pawn, he always has to worry about that, and then there's drama on the queen side. And you might ask yourself, well, where's the drama on the queen side? Well, it's coming. We're going to be able to open stuff up, and we're going to have a higher force count because the rook on h8 is not so hot. Pooh Bear asks, would I be up for a match against Kostya and Pruess consultating against you? Yeah, sure. I think in general, it's harder for the consultators because they'll have different ideas. It's like too many cooks spoil the broth kind of thing. But still, it would be fun. Absolutely. Yeah. So bishop f8 and h5 to trade the pawn is definitely a thought if it could somehow be made to happen. Unfortunately, when we play gh, you can't recapture it, at least not easily. And here, actually, this is a really important point. But by the way, I do think this is winning for white. I might be able, that bishop d8 thing might be able to persuade me that black has a chance on move 1. I do think it's winning, and in general, one of the problems from a, let's call it psychological point of view for black is, what do you do now? It's not just a chess problem, it's like a psychological problem. What do you do now? Because white can improve very nicely with moves like b4 b5, b4 b5 rook a1, king d3 c4 c5. He's got loads of things at his disposal, and the rook on h8, so bad. So bad. Yeah, Pruess, what is he? He's got his head down or something? Oh yeah, there he is. No, I think king e2 was absolutely correct. And I was thinking about it actually, it's a natural move to move the king up. But the main point is you want to clear the communication of the rooks. So the rook on h1 wants the opportunity to swing to the queen side. Wants black to think about it. Doesn't mean we're going to do it right away, but we want that opportunity. And I see people were talking about rook d3, h3. It's a thought, but remember, I can put a rook on f7. It's not the easiest pawn to win. Again, the point is not the pawn. The point is to make the pieces bad. And the rook on d5, we have little drama things that we can create. To me, the most natural move here would be either king d3 or b4. b4, very natural. It just creates an immediate question for black too, of like, how do you want to deal with b5 as a threat? Yeah. very similar, or mildly similar position happens in the game with Reshevsky and Fischer. And, first of all, black could have played a5 to stop b4. We had that in some of my practice games. You can sit, which I'm kind of guessing is what Pruess is going to do. I'm wondering if c4 is too soon. It's probably okay. Funny, Fischer plays b4 and is not afraid of b5. And the question is, does c4 ruin anything? I kind of doubt it could possibly ruin anything. Does it allow black to think about b5 now? White has a variety of ways to be better after b5, but first of all, it's the only active move. So this is part of the psychological drama that black is suffering under. That it's very hard to find active moves. And I'll just tell a little story here. Like, even if you begin the position by telling yourself a story that you are going to sit. Now, try sitting 5 moves. Try sitting 5 moves and then see if you really can sit. Not that easy. Not that easy to sit. So king d3, by all means, the natural move, followed up by b4, b5. White is now definitely, if not winning, really close. We're going to do a nota bene here, is that bishop d8, b4, bishop b6 has to worry about b5. That's what you got to worry about there. Maybe one crazy variation could be bishop d8, b4, bishop b6, and it's got to be said, c5 right there is not a pleasant thing to face, but let's just first consider this wild variation. b5, bishop e3, pawn takes, rook a5, bishop g5, and the question would be, does black have a little compensation? Probably not. Probably not. But maybe then the improvement could be bishop d8, b4, bishop b6, b5, ab. Uh-oh. All right, well, obviously that thought's gone. Obviously that thought's gone. Oh, Seth, I don't know about those Twitch notifications, buddy. Yeah. I've got a theory about it. Maybe I started streaming before we had updated the business, like updated the, what do you call it? The Twitch notification. So it just thought we were continuing the stream of before. Why did the king move away? Mr. Pruess is dreaming of enslaving his king to g7. And, right, he is dreaming of putting his king to g7 and thereby freeing his rook on h8. The problem, of course, is putting your king will then, you got to invest the time to put your king there. And then also, your king, very inactive once it gets there. But that's obviously his intention. All right. Smurberg, king d3 instead of c4. I think that would have been fine too. I'm prejudiced toward b4, but I understand that the grief there is you're worried about b5, but once you play b5, then you, if black plays b5, then the a6 pawn is weak. All right. Okay, thank you for the follows, everybody. We need some follows. f4, very committal move. I got to dive deep now. I'm not sure about it. I'm going to go ahead and say I don't like it. Here's the problem with f4. If it wins tactically, then obviously it's okay. And in the practice games I did, there were some interesting opportunities where it won tactically. But the problem with f4, and at the moment it's looking that way to me in this very position, is that now black can at least get a little nibble on the f file. Part of his whole problem in this position is that there was never anything to play with on the f file. But the second you play f4, black can play ef, bishop takes, king e6, and then start dreaming about putting stuff on the f file. And yeah, not so easy. Here's another great trick that actually Pruess could fall for. And in my practice game with the famous James Altucher, he could have done it to me because I didn't see it. It was a similar position. If king e6, thinking you can take here anyway, it's not true, because king e6, f5 exclam, gf, check to the miserable king, king goes somewhere, ef happens, and then you're toast. So, there we go. b3 pawn, very hard to get to the b3 pawn. Very hard. I think Mr. Pruess should play ef and king e6, and it's close to defensible. It's a huge change in the pawn structure that I think is to black's benefit. Yeah. This is a great endgame. Whew, whew. And then the way Fischer plays this endgame too, it's just like, holy moly, man. Just raging with the endgame. All right, ef was played, good move. And the nice thing too is, I think Kostya must have told himself a story of like, oh, if the king gets to g7, then maybe I'll have some grief. Oh, there we go. Okay, good move, Kostya. Good move. It's at least a fighting shot. Why didn't it's funny I didn't consider that, because I did consider it in my analysis. Now, how special is it? I don't know. Good question. I don't know how special it is. Because let's say some obvious stuff. The rook on h7, yes, a powerful piece, but now the pawn on g5 is weak, and the f4 pawn isn't really a chump. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I'm gonna say that guy's not a chump. So you can be fancy with a move like rook f8, and then rook h7, king e6, but then you're gonna have to reckon with rook g7. Or you can be a passive dude and play rook g8, rook h7, king e6. And white's probably still better, but it's feeling like we're losing a little control. A little control is being lost. That g5 pawn worries me. And the f4 pawn's, like I said, I said it already, he's not a chump. Apparently I really love that word. Yeah. I really don't think you want to play king g8. It might not be the simplest thing to win after. It might actually be very simple to win after king g8. The first thing you do is you wouldn't take the rook. There's absolutely no hurry in taking that chump of a rook. At least I don't think so. Unless h5 could somehow be a dream. I mean, king g8 would be a very fanciful move. Very fanciful move. Yeah. Yeah, we need some tips, everybody. We need some tips. I was doing a stream with Eugene earlier today. Got raided by the chess bras. Holy moly. There was some people coming in there. Yeah. I heard, by the way, rook g8. There we go. I think that was best. And it takes a bold man to play a passive-looking move like rook g8. But the point is, if you lose the g7 pawn, it's not just a pawn, it's the activity of the white rook. So black's dream is to say, you got rook h7, king e6, but your rook isn't actually doing anything that special. And we'll see, we'll try to evaluate that in the next couple moves. So big question for Kostya after king e6. Does he have anything special? He definitely has loads of thoughts like c5 and e5. The thing about both those c5 and e5 though is they don't actually threaten anything. right? Because I can just take it back with the bishop. Or no, let's just say they don't threaten the end of the world. Maybe I'll put it that way. It's not an end of the world style threat. I'd be willing to believe, though, that one of those moves gives black grief. And here's another question. Does white need to find something now? Or, like, i.e., is black threatening anything? And if he's not, then we can make a building move. I'm not a huge fan of that rook h4 move. No, I'm not. Maybe it's still fine, but I'm not a fan. Oh, this is a big moment for Mr. Pruess. Let me just say I'm not a fan because, let's say it's white's move and you take it. Are you winning that position? I don't know. Yeah, you won a pawn. Congratulations. But your rook isn't that active. Okay, so that was a simple deal. That was a simple deal for Mr. Pruess. Just go back. Say, what do you want? The question was there some way for David to take advantage of that rook h4? Felt like rook h4 didn't feel like it deserved such a popular appeal. I just make stuff up when I say stuff like that. All right. Now, in Kostya's mind, what he got out of it was he got the rook going to g8. I don't know if it really helped, though. The rook on h7 was far more beautiful than the rook on h6, I think. But, for example, the rook on h7 had more juice because it was touching the whole 7th rank, and stuff like c5 and e5 was then on the cards. So if we go back rook h7, king e6, we could say e5, at least then white's threatening stuff like king e4, just to build the position and, do his business. Yeah. Well, Kostya's going to have to make some special sauce here. I think f4 was a mild crime. Bladwing is talking king e2, f3, king f4. Maybe. It's a lot of time investment. And even if you get there, it's not the hugest achievement. An achievement would be like with the rook on h7 and then to play e5. So, for example, maybe you just admit that you kind of blew it a little bit and you play rook h7. b4, here it comes. I'm not convinced by any of this. Now, because what are we doing? What are we doing here? We got... Yeah, I don't know. Like... Are we so certain, let me put it this way, are we so certain that we're wanting to push the rook away from c8? Like rook c8, rook f8, for example. Why isn't that a thing? Seems like kind of a thing. Rook c7. Good. And let's note that bishop f8 might be a threat here. And so if rook h7, then bishop d8. Yeah, why not a friend? Seems like Kostya's made 3 moves that I don't know if I'm ready to call them wrong, but they don't feel right. Hey, Pruess, buddy. Can you fix your rating, man? 2356. You're stinking up the dojo, boss. You're stinking it up, man. You can't be, if you're going to be part of the dojo, you can't be 2356. Come on, man. 2356, man. Have some dojo pride, buddy. Put yourself on the course for a 2700 quest, at least a 2400 quest. Boss, come on, man. You know, come on, have some pride. Bishop d8, there we go. Now, Kostya's losing his grip, dude. I'm just going to reiterate something. You know, these guys have a far more interesting chess career than I do, in the sense that, you know, they could become GMs, and it's just as somebody who's tried to do it and did it, it's a very interesting goal. It's a struggle, and definitely both are capable of doing it. But my sense was, and this show is for the most part confirmed it for me, is the end game is they're weak, dude. Weak. And most players, in my experience, are weak in the end game. Can they chessable like a maniac? Yes. Can they play puzzle rush to 50,000? Yes. But the end game, dude, there's some problems. Some real problems. I'm not a rating hound, man. I'm just saying 2356, man. Have some self-respect. Come on. That's the difference between being a rating hound and talking about 2356, if you know what I'm saying. Come on. All right, rook h6. So the obvious move for Mr. Pruess would be rook f7, because Mama said put your rooks behind passed pawns. But maybe he's got some other moves too. Honestly, you know, it's funny that they were saying this feels like a position where black can't win. And I was like, dude, I just played some practice games against my students. I won just about every game with black. And you ask yourself, when you start the position, you'd be like, oh, I can't imagine how black wins. Well, it happens exactly like this. Somebody like Kostya loses a thread, and then he can't even imagine going for a draw because he's had this nice position the whole time. And then stuff starts going wrong. And then at a certain point, you got to start asking, well, like, who's better and why? And like in this position, I don't know. So with bishop e7, I guess we're inviting a repetition with rook h7, bishop d8, as also threatening bishop f8. I like rook f7, but okay. You could do it. You could play chess like this. I guess, oh, that's an ugly move, Kostya. Well, I assume Mr. Pruess's point here was that bishop d8 would be satisfactory for the business. I don't know why not, yeah. There's little interesting thoughts here. One interesting thought is maybe we could set up a situation where we allow black to take our rook. That's pretty... Kostya says, I don't want any part of that. I don't want any part. Okay, bishop d7. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. I think maybe that was his last chance. Like what I was thinking of instead of rook h1 is maybe some kind of c5 just to spice it up a little bit. And if he takes to claim that that pawn is a monster, is it true? I don't know. I don't know if it's true, but it would have been, it might be true, honestly. It might honestly be true. Kind of like it, actually. Maybe we'll take a look at it afterwards. Yeah. In the lowest level of hell. Starting to feel like 15s and 16s are challenging, but not super hard. You know, one thing is interesting about that is I got this guy, and we've been training for, you know, he's part of the chess boom. He is working to get to 1600, and there are elements is that the word I'm going to use? I'm going to say, yeah, I'll use the word elements. There are elements of players out there. Elements, Kraai? Anyways, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say there's a bunch of players out there on chess.com who are around 1,500 that are working very much on their game. And it's competitive. It's like actually competitive to get to that level. And the reason I sound a little bit surprised on it is back in the day, 1,500 was, you know, I mean, yeah, you had to work a little bit to get there, but I'm just trying to say that we're going to see at the tournament whether, you know, a 2,500 is still a 2,500, but I do think a 1,500 is stronger than it used to be, just because of the chess boom, and like there's so many people who are working on it now that 1,500 is now like it's a level of player where the guy is at least given a lot to the game just to get to that point. Okay, my friends, critical moment. Mr. Pruess has been testing his luck here, trying to trade off this bishop, and he might regret it a little bit. We're about to find out. So here we go. Yeah. So I guess I'm going to call it a standard variation would be something like, oh, if bishop d4, there's just an obvious problem. There's rook d6. So there's no bishop d4. And is rook d6 a threat? Maybe. Let's say probably. That's still kind of tricky. Whew, yeah, hot. Now, rook. I was talking smack about rook d6, but maybe it's not so special. Pruess says not so special. Now, what is my intuition on this crazy position here? So, rook e8, conceivably rook f8. Rook e8 is more natural. It's actually, wait, Kraai. This is pretty hectic. Poor David needs a good move. David, think for a moment here, buddy. This one, not so simple, my friend. Not so simple. Maybe rook f8 is your genius move, but that's going to take some cojones. That's going to take some heavy cojones to play it. No, I don't even know if it works. You probably just go to the king and pawn endgame. Well, the problem with the b pawn is white, like let's say you play rook h8. White's about to play rook b6. And then he covers everything. There's some big questions here, my friends. Okay. Besides rook e8, how do I feel about rook e8? It's definitely suffering. I don't know if it's losing for black, but it's definitely suffering. Does black have any other moves besides rook e8? He could play, no, king e7, just rook b6. Sorry, kid. Yeah. It's still complicated, honestly. Imagine, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to imagine it, but king e7, rook b6, rook f8, rook b7, king e6. That doesn't seem like it's going to work out for black, dude. No, doesn't seem like it. Yeah. Because even if there's nothing fancy, there's still like the famous, maybe I was going to say the famous Rook H7, Rook H1, maybe King E7, Rook B6, Rook D8 check. I don't believe in that. No, I can't. I can't do that to myself because then just King E5 and then F3, Rook B7 check and the King's host. Okay, so let me ask. Here was.
I just glad to see Jesse's reaction to the robot voice.
Freaking me out, man. Is that DM Hokey messing with me, dude? What was that, man? What was that? Is that Seth that did that to me, man? That was cold. All right, let's just look at this Rook F6 for a second. Rook F6, King E7, snip, snip, E5, King E7, King E4. Is that winning? Maybe not. Maybe not. I think it is, though. Let's see. Now, he doesn't have to do Rook F6, but here we go. Rook F6, King E7, snippos, topos, E5, King E7, King E4, King E6, and so if King F4, there's King D5 and maybe you live. Even that, though, I'm going to say no, it's not true, because King D5...
It was DM Hokey.
Because King D5, I got B4. It was DM Hokey. Who's doing that, man? I want to know how to do that. I want to mess with Pruess, man, on his streams. I want to mess with Pruess. Blame. It wasn't me. So Rook F6 looks. I think I admire Rook F8 as an attempt. And Kostya's trying to work out Rook F6. It looks winning to me. There'd have to be a special trick for it not to be winning. Well, I mean, special. Yeah, I believe in magic, but not that much, you know. There it goes. Kostya's getting away with one, dude. I felt like he pushed the limit. Pushed the limit. Now, is he going to gamble with E5, or has he figured it all out with Rook F8? E5 might well be winning. It seems definitely unnecessary, though. Do you believe in magic in a young girl's heart? He's double checking it. There it comes, E5 as predicted. And just to refresh what I was saying before, the problem seems to be that King E7, King E4, King E6, King F4, King D5, that is not zugzwang. It is in fact white who puts black into zugzwang with B4. And then it's just crispy critters. It's just crispy critters the whole way. You just got to back it up. Yeah. So that's the problem as I see it. Yeah, that's toast. Toast, toast, toast. What's Pruess looking at, man? What do you do? Oh, he's got a real board maybe set up or something. Yeah. Wonder if what's going on, Pruess? Can I snaggle you over here? Can I like move you? So I seem. Oh, look at that! I grabbed more of him. That's called OBS technology, my friends. That's OBS technology. I needed to see him. Man, how come I don't have hair like Kostya and David, dude? You know? These guys aren't even womanizers. If I could have hair like that, or like Lafong's hair, dude, oh, I would have a woman crusher rating of like 3,000. No woman would be divorcing me right now if I had hair like that, dude. I would be fine. Or have you guys seen DM Hokey's hair? Holy smokes. DM Hokey's got some great hair, man. Just some great hair. Who else has got good hair, man? Nordovich, dude. And Seth. They got good hair. They got great hair, man. Chess Latte? Oh, that kid's got hair. That kid's got a lot of hair. But we don't know yet. We don't know if he's destined to be a baldy like me yet or not. We just don't know that kind of thing. Where's the man bun? I don't have the hair to grow out a man bun. I just don't got it. Yeah, Paul, it's a cruel life. I'm moving out of this house soon too. I'm getting kicked, booted, man, booted. It's summer though, and there's some pretty girls out, so it's okay. And we're gonna see if Kostya has calculated this all out. It kind of seems like he has. Night Fox says, I bald. Yeah, that's a good subject, verb, coordination. I bald. Poe Hamilton. I might come stay with you, buddy. Where are you living, buddy? Poe Hamilton. Oh, is it that Hamilton? See, a lot of times I don't know exactly who the people are. I think I know who Poe Hamilton might be. I'm coming to DC at the moment. Okay, now, Pruess is trying to be real sneaky. I'm going to say, oh. No, it just doesn't work. King C6, E6, my friend. E6, goodbye. Goodbye. It was clever. If B4, the only way white could blow this is if B4, then King D5 is actually super genius level, But unfortunately for black, E6 is the end of all the dreams. All the dreams say bye-bye when you play E6. Tampa. Well, I ain't going to Tampa. All right. All right, let me put on the headphones. We'll talk to these guys. All right. Let's see what we got. In a young girl's heart. All right. All right, can you guys say something just so I can hear you or not? Okay, they're back. All right, interesting game, my friends, interesting game. How about this? While I'm setting up, I'm just going to grab the PGN here. Maybe you guys can talk a little bit about if your opinion on the original position changed or not. Okay. So, all right. David was saying, okay, start again, David. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So basically, to me, I decided I suddenly realized as we were going from saying what the evaluations were to going over to play, I suddenly realized that I hadn't thought of the maneuver Rook D3 to H3. I've only thought of, well, of course, G5 to tie down the H pawn. But then I was like, oh my God, if the Rook goes to H3, what am I doing, right? And that I think would be would make things even worse for black than I thought. Then Kostya didn't do that.
Yeah, I thought you were just gonna put your other rook on F7, and then I didn't see, and then I was worried that I would be allowing some D5 pawn break.
Okay. And then Kostya did other things, and I still could never find a way to move. So both of those thoughts made me think that it was even worse than I had first thought. I saw some really brutal. I saw several moves for Kostya that looked really scary for me that he didn't play, and moves that he did play were as good as what you guys just saw. So,
yeah, it definitely felt like I didn't play in a clean way.
Right. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'll just share with you guys what I told the chat. My first impression of the position was kind of like yours, that white is better. And this is, by the way, this is Fischer Reshevsky U.S. Championship 62, I believe. And actually, I'll tell you a funny story. I was making fun of the H3 Najdorf. And then Kostya was like, Fischer played it, dude. Fischer played it. And so this comes from an H3 Najdorf. I was talking about H3 Najdorf being like a newfangled millennial thing. But in fact, it goes back. Any case, so I also thought it was clear advantage. And now I think it's probably lost. And Reshevsky played bishop e7 as well. And it's kind of an interesting thing that there's two problems with bishop d8. I think bishop d8 is the move black wants to play.
Oh, we should be on your board now.
Oh,
I'm on Jesse's board.
yeah. Oh, sorry, Kostya. I invited you, but you didn't pick up. Here, let me do it again.
My bad, my bad. Yeah, bring me twice.
Let's invite you twice, buddy. Okay, so there's two problems with bishop d8. One is maybe f4, and two, rook d3, h3. d3, h3 might be the more compelling of the two.
Seems to win a pawn in the game.
On bishop d8, sure, yeah.
Okay, so let's focus on bishop e7. One of the things that's interesting about the bishop d8 variation is f4 is very fascinating. There's all kinds of stuff going on there. But it happens in this game too, is f4, I think, should only be played if white is getting something tactical. Otherwise, you're giving black too much juice by playing f4. But let's take a look. So king e2, king e6, bishop e3, rook a c8. And one funny thing I was telling Chad that I think is true is like, you know, I think at David's first couple moves, I was like, oh yeah, he's going to try to sit. And I thought about it, I was like, no one can just sit for forever. He's going to try to do something. And then you eventually did. You thought about it, and then you played king f7, trying to do something. In any case, Bobby played very similar position, played b4. But I don't think c4 ruins anything. And I think, Kostya, that when you play c4, you are trying to work against, you're like concerned maybe b4, b5, right?
Yeah, I like b4, b5. So
that happens in the game, and it's a classic example where white can alternate between the two weaknesses, h7 and a6. And one thing I want to stress is it's not about pawns. It's about the entrance of the rooks. It's really not about, like, if you're just winning a pawn, it's not good enough. You need the entrance of the power of the dudes. But I
basically was never going to play b5.
What's that?
I basically was never going to play b5 for black. I wasn't going to touch my b pawn.
Well, here was a first moment that if you felt desperate, you could have considered b5. And I thought the controversy with c4 was maybe we can dream about playing b5.
On b5, I was just going to choose between king d3 and I thought even, like, the line I calculated was I could maybe take, and then if check, king d3, take, I was thinking king c3, rook a2.
But he would just
b6.
play, so b5 if cb. I don't know if this works, but just ab.
Right, so black could maybe recapture, so that's why I was probably just going to do king d3.
Yeah.
Right, and here black, the hope, right, would be, hey, maybe I can get a little play with something like that.
Yeah, saying king c3, b4, it felt very pleasant. I just didn't see how black, let's say, gets real counterplay.
You know, bishop d8.
Yeah.
Any case, the question, right? But b4, I don't know. Like, there's bishop b6.
Yeah, I think white's still much better there. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
Well, here's the question. If you're black, if you feel you're losing, if you play slowly, then I think on a principled level, you play b5.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't, if you feel like you can sit, then maybe you do something like what Pruess does with rook c6, right? So here we go. Rook c6, king d3. And here, like, Pruess doesn't know what, I'm just, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it just feels like, oh, I got to do something, right? And
I mean, technically I have to move a piece, right?
Well, you could play bishop d8.
Really? Okay.
Right?
I didn't consider that. For me, it was kind of like between king f7 and rook c7. But
okay. So here I felt Kostya, maybe he's winning after f4, but I thought it was risking too much. And the building move like b4, that looks too much to me, man.
And then, but then what would be my break then?
Well, b5 is coming next. What are you gonna, like, well, I don't know what he wants to do. King g7? I assume that was his intention.
Let's say king g7, sure.
On king g7, can't you also play f4?
Maybe.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, better there.
Because see, now I can alternate. I can also play rook a1 now, see?
Yeah.
It's the famous
alternation.
alternation.
This was my kind of original intention. I did think this was good for white. I just thought f4 was stronger.
Okay, let's take a look. So like I said to chat, maybe I already repeating myself to you guys, is that f4 gives black hopes of counterplay.
For sure.
Right? That's the problem of f4. Right? Totally shifting the position. So ef, boom. And I assume, Kostya, like, you must have thought this position was winning. And maybe it is.
I do think it's winning, but yeah, I wasn't sure, like, how to actually win it. But I do feel like something like e5 could be really strong.
So good. I thought rook
really
h4 was suspected. But the weird thing about e5, right, is it's not entirely clear what your threat is.
Well, I'm kind of threatening the b7 pawn.
You're kind of threatening the b7 pawn. Yeah.
He also has the idea of playing king e4.
So let's say b5.
That's what I would have tried here. That's my intended move.
Yeah.
I thought you would take twice on b5.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Black has hopes here, right? Like I can play d5 and then aim to take your g5 pawn.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely not very clear here. So,
but I
guess rook h4. I'm just trying to keep control. I don't know. I spent all my time because I couldn't figure out what to do. Of course, I did feel like I was still in control here as well.
Well, let's back up. We'll get to this. So rook h4. Here's David's kind of moment. So rook f8, h6. Okay, let's assume this is correct. b4. I thought David was really making progress here. So, boom. Well, you don't want to do rook h7 if you're just going to go back, right?
Oh yeah, I just didn't quite see bishop d8, but
right.
I feel like it's okay. So.
But isn't black? I thought black was like, okay, maybe black is playing. I mean, now I'm happy as black. Play rook f7. I told Chad, I was like, Mama said, rooks belong behind passed pawns.
Yeah, I considered that move. You know what I was actually afraid of? A move before this, bishop d8. What I was actually afraid of here was rook back to h1. And then here I was terrified of like rook e1 e5, just going for my king.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, that's rook f7. Maybe it seems like if this doesn't work out for White, it's definitely not what he wanted.
Yeah, I would say it doesn't. Yeah, it feels like could have been smoother.
Wait, what do we not want? We're threatening mate in 2.
Like I'll declare I don't know what's going on. So F3, E5, King F5.
Where are you going, friend?
Oh, my bad. It's been a long day. Okay.
Yeah, Ricky 1 was very strong.
Okay, I'm gonna say I don't buy it, but all right. It's a thought.
Anyway, this is just one thing I was terrified of, but I was in a sad place of looking at lots of variations that were bad. And anytime Kostya didn't play one of the variations I was scared of, I'd be like relieved for a second, and then be like, oh, I can't do anything against this either.
Yeah, but you got this position. This is already compared to what you had, this is already a dream.
I was feeling like it was a dream, and I was still losing my dream.
Well, here, like we said, Rook F7, we're ready. You know, who knows what's happening here. Okay, let's look at Bishop B7. So Kostya slow plays it. And what's interesting about this Bishop F8 thing is I'm sure your intuition, and it made sense, was like your intuition was something like, well, if I exchange off the bishops, then maybe I got a fighting chance. But the weird thing, right, was that your coordination is still poor.
Yeah.
Or it's especially poor after this goes down. And like, yeah, I thought here you were in big trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I miscalculated when I went for this. Like, I went for this sort of... I had this as, like, one thing I could go for if he allowed it. And on general principle, I thought, like, if I get to that rook ending, it's chaotic.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think I was a little bit...
kind of owning me with all the good diagonals. But I miscalculated... I mean, I hadn't calculated c5, takes, bishop trades, rook d4 check when I went for the bishop trade. I hadn't seen how that rook check, like, takes even more space, and I think ends the game. But once he played c5, I didn't see any way around it anymore. So.
Yeah, but I was a little fortunate, I think, that like the pawn endgame was good because like I didn't really know that when I played c5.
Yeah. I was thinking about Kostya, and I really thought you should go to the pawn endgame, but like let's say this position, that's pretty sad.
So that was my question. If I just go e5, I wasn't totally sure if like, I mean, there's always some chances in the rook endgame, right?
I had in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm never sure about this. I don't know, rook 6, I guess. But...
Mm-hmm.
And even this one, I don't know.
Dang.
Maybe King G8 instead of F8. I don't know.
Maybe.
But anyways, I'm saying, like, I think you could trust. I think it's okay to trust your intuition that you're winning that position, like, because with all king and pawn end games, you don't want to have it to be your one thing, right?
Right. Like, he's got good chances of winning without going to the king and pawn ending, and he can double check it when it gets closer.
Right. Okay, cool. Well, do you guys want me to show you how the game went?
I have to take a quick break, but you go ahead. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'll be right back.
No, it's fine. I'll just quickly show how this went. And if you missed some of the show, by the way, we will post this to YouTube. So king e2. This first move Reshevsky makes seems kind of weird. By the way, this game, I'm a little confused. I have a theory about it. Okay, so my book says 1963, and then when I find it online, it says 1962, and I'm guessing it was a U.S. championship that was held, over the new year. So maybe 62, 63.
Right.
That's just a guess. I don't know.
So the U.S. championships were held like right at the new year for a couple of years in a row there.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So bishop e3, dude goes back. B4.
You see that, Jesse? Smurber's right. Kostya had to run for the avocado toast. He heard a ding.
Dude, give it his girlfriend, man. They're putting that on their faces and stuff. They don't have it. Yeah, it's rough. I think what's cool about this b4 move is Kostya c4 is fine too. But what's cool is like Fischer has the confidence to say b5 is not going to do anything to me. And now he instantly switches rook d1. And the point is, it's just total brutality here. Here, here, here. Rook h3. Get ready for it, David. Check this out.
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
Bishop f8. You ready for this, buddy? Zugzwang. Is it true? I guess it's true, boss.
Oh, my Lord.
Zugzwang.
I would say I lost a little less badly than that. So that'll be my small comfort for today.
Kostya could have hurt you way worse than he did. But this is old school, man. So let me just point this out. Like if you move rook here, well, basically anywhere you move the rook, I got this thing. Same thing with all these other squares, right? There's no place to put the bishop, and there's no place to put the rook. And the thing I really want to stress is it's not just a pawn. It's much bigger than a pawn. It's the entrance into the black position. Yeah, very smooth. So the game goes on from here, but I think it's clear we can.
It goes on?
Well, I mean, dude played d5. It's not,
Dude had zits play, yeah.
Actually, yeah, d5, and here's a nice move. Rook a1. Really great example, by the way, of what we talk about as, or I talk about as, Nimzovich's idea of alternation, right? Mm-hmm. You got two weaknesses, and usually they're not this far apart, but what's nice about this example from a dogmatic or paradigmatic point of view, right, is that it really is the furthest you can possibly get. So it's more of a visual then. So then we go check to the miserable king. And then it's basically time to give up.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. So yeah, this is exactly the kind of position I wasn't sure how I would break through. I definitely didn't see like I have rook d1 check, rook d8.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Wait, so black couldn't have the bishop on... Oh, of course, yeah, bishop had to be on f8.
To keep the second row clear to defend the h-pawn.
Tafaska says, Kostya did not see this Zugzwang.
Yeah, I didn't calculate this.
Kostya, how could you have missed it, buddy? Come on.
I don't know. I gotta work on my endgames.
Let me just say, also, just to, it was kind of interesting, is I was telling chat at the beginning, so I showed this to several of my students, and I think one of the things I just want people to, a bigger lesson that I've learned as a teacher too, is that I'd say around 2,400 people stop obsessing about pawns and are more focused on pieces. So the problem for black is not that he's got pawn weaknesses, it's that his pieces are passive, in particular the rook on h8. So the point about g5 is all about that rook. It's like we've pinned one of his 4 pieces down, and because that piece is pinned down, that's going to free us for operations on the other side of the board. Like the force of the rook on h8 will be lost because we can move our rook over whenever we want, and he cannot. And that's the big thing. And anyways, I just want to stress, like, if you didn't understand that this was great for white at first and yada yada, note, I just want people to know, I showed it to several students, 2200s as well, and they were confused between like bishop h6 and g5, and they didn't want to play g5 because it felt to them like a pawn weakness. And this is a great example. It's not about the pawns, it's about activity and passivity. And g5 puts them into a collar, right? In general, you don't want to put your pawns on the same color as your bishop. That's true. That's the Capablanca rule. But it's a bigger deal to fix the rook into passivity.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the rook on h8 suffers much more from the h7 pawn than the white bishop suffers from the g5 pawn.
Yeah. And I wanted to say, too, I didn't think rook d3 was that big of a thing. And I think Kostya said, too, because here at least we can do this kind of business. You know, and the rook, yeah, it's, you know, that's I like the rook on d5. Usually rooks in the center are terrible, but the rook on d5 has some interesting power going this way, in particular with ideas like b4 b5. Thank you, Code Banan. Thank you for subscribing. Okay, you guys, I think David's gonna take over now. Is that correct, David?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's correct.
So David's gonna take over now. I will be back in, what do we got? I gotta do some math here, my friends. I did some 4.5 hours, and Kostya's gonna host me talking about stuff to the U.S. chess school kids. So it's a long day at the dojo. And this weekend, full of stuff too. We're gonna have dojo talks at 4 on Sunday, 4 Eastern. So I'll see these guys then again. All right, David, I'm gonna get out of here. I'll leave it to you.
Okay.
All right, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.